Most people who keep up with celebrity gossip know all about the famous Jolie-Pitt family, but there are numerous other stars who have opted to go the adoption route when building their families as well. The journey to parenthood presents many unexpected twists and turns. For a growing number, adoption is the only way for parents who are struggling to conceive to create the family of their dreams. Join us as Facts First presents celebrities who have adopted children into their families. Andy Griffith couldn't have kids for a surprising reason. In Ron Howard's recent memoir, The Boys, which he penned with the help of his brother and fellow actor Clint Howard, the famed director and former child star opened up about his early years in Hollywood, working on the sets of classic TV shows like The Andy Griffith Show and Happy Days. At one point, he touched on his relationship with his TV dad, Andy Griffith. According to him, the two were quite close, both while working together and for years after their iconic sitcom ended. Apparently, while on the set of The Andy Griffith Show, Howard was often privy to hearing tidbits of adult conversations that his young ears weren't quite ready for. On one of those occasions, he learned that Griffith was unable to father children after being rendered sterile by a bout with the mumps as a teenager. While Howard says Griffith's candor was quite admirable, he admits the subject of sterility was something that his, quote, virgin ears had yet to hear about before. So on the ride home that evening, Howard's father had to explain the concept in greater detail. Andy married his first wife, Barbara Bray Edwards, in August of 1949. The two adopted two children, a son they named Andy Samuel Griffith Jr. and a daughter named Dixie Nan. Griffith and Edwards divorced in 1972. He later remarried twice, first to a Greek actress named Solika Kasuto and later to Cindy Knight, but he never had more children. Angelina and Billy Bob Thornton split because he didn't want kids. Angelina Jolie and Thornton got married in 2000, but just 3 years later they split up and divorced. According to one of Thornton's previous wives, Melissa DeBin Parrish, he and Jolie's marriage might have fallen apart because he never wanted to have kids. While that claim is somewhat speculative, the timeline seems to fit. Jolie had always wanted children, and in March of 2002, she managed to convince Billy Bob to expand their family by adopting a 7-month-old baby girl named Maddox from an orphanage in Cambodia. Several months later, however, their marriage was kaput, thus making Angelina a single parent. A couple of years later, Jolie was accused of causing the divorce of actors Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt after falling in love with Pitt on the set of the 2005 film Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Granted, Jolie denies being a homewrecker and claims Pitt and Aniston's marriage was already on the outs. Regardless of how their relationship began, Angelina and Brad remained a Hollywood power couple for the next 12 years or so. They made things official after years of living with each other in 2014 and remained married until 2019. While they've since divorced, the two will always be bound together by their 6 children, 3 of whom are adopted. Besides Maddox, Brangelina also adopted an Ethiopian girl named Zahara in 2005, as well as a Vietnamese boy named Paxtin in 2007. Lionel Richie adopted Nicole Richie when she was 9. In October of 1975, Lionel Richie married his college sweetheart Brenda Harvey. Not long after, Richie was attending a Prince concert when he saw a 2-year-old girl on stage playing tambourine. He went backstage and he found the young girl's parents, Peter Michael Escovedo and Karen Moss. Both parents worked in the music industry. Peter's brother was singer Sheila E., and his uncle was Latin guitarist Alejandro Escovedo. Moss worked as a stagehand. After talking with Nicole's parents, who opened up about their financial problems and relationship woes, Lionel offered to take Nicole into his care so they could work on their issues. When Nicole was 3, her birth parents decided to take Richie up on his generous offer. Nicole went to live with Lionel and Brenda, but it quickly became apparent her parents weren't making much progress sorting out their mountain of problems. Within a year of living with her as her guardian, Lionel fell in love with Nicole and began to think of her as his daughter. When she was 9, Lionel and Brenda decided to make it official by formally adopting Nicole. While the two eventually divorced, they remained in Nicole's life throughout all its twists and turns. Nicole eventually found fame on her own when she began her own acting career, appearing alongside Paris Hilton in the early aughts reality show The Simple Life. Unfortunately, her new fame and fortune came with its own set of unexpected problems. She fell into a downward spiral of addiction. She publicly struggled with eating disorders for a number of years before finding stability once again after becoming pregnant with her first child in 2008. Even at her lowest points, both Lionel and Brenda remained by Nicole's side and never gave up on her. She also reconnected with her biological parents, especially her mother, Karen Moss, and has been on the straight and narrow ever since. Julie Andrews' 2 adopted children. This English actress, author, and singer is one of the most iconic names in Hollywood. She's garnered countless awards throughout her 7-decade-spanning career, including an Academy Award, a BAFTA Award, 2 Primetime Emmys, 3 Grammys, and 6 Golden Globes. Andrews got her start as a child actress in London's West End in 1948. She made her Broadway debut in a 1954 production of The Boyfriend. She rose to fame starring in Broadway musicals like My Fair Lady and Camelot. She's perhaps best known as playing the magical nanny in Disney's 1964 musical film Mary Poppins. The following year, she starred in the equally iconic musical The Sound of Music. She went on to star in dozens of films, including Hawaii, Star, That's Life, and more recently in The Princess Diaries and the sequel, The Princess Diaries 2, Royal Engagement. Andrews married her first husband, Tony Walton, in 1959. In 1962, their daughter Emma was born. After divorcing Walton in 1968, she married director Blake Edwards. In the 1970s, the couple adopted 2 Vietnamese daughters, Amy and Joanna. Andrews and Walton remained married for 41 years until Blake's death in 2010. Diane Keaton gave up on trying to find a husband. This actress and director rose to prominence with her performance as Kay Adams Corleone in 1972's The Godfather. She reprised her role in the film's 2 sequels. She was also a frequent collaborator with Woody Allen, appearing in films like Play It Again Sam, Sleeper, and Annie Hall. Keaton, now 76, has yet to retire from acting. In fact, she's expected to appear in the upcoming film Book Club 2, The Next Chapter, slated to hit theaters in 2023. Throughout her life, Keaton has been romantically tied to several of her film collaborators. From Woody Allen to Al Pacino to Warren Beatty, Keaton has had a number of high-profile lovers, but despite having nothing but good things to say about all of those men, she's never been able to find someone she could see herself settling down with. In 1996, Keaton adopted a daughter named Dexter. 5 years later, she adopted a son named Duke. In 2008, People ran an article that shined a light on Keaton's late-in-life adoption. In that piece, Keaton was quoted as describing the time before the adoption of her 2 children as being, quote, years of selfishness. She went on to say she has no regrets about how things turned out. Jamie Lee Curtis. Iconic horror film star Jamie Lee Curtis and her husband Christopher Guest adopted 2 children fairly early on in their marriage. The couple exchanged marriage vows on December 18, 1984, just 5 months after Curtis saw Guest's picture in Rolling Stone and told her friend Deborah Hill she was going to one day marry him. Pretty much immediately after getting married, the couple realized they'd be unable to birth a child due to fertility issues. They adopted their first child, Annie, in 1986. A decade later, they adopted a child named Ruby, who has since come out as transgender. After adopting their 2 kids, Curtis dropped her successful film career to take care of her family. In recent years, she's expressed her belief that adoption is a sacred exchange. She's also been quoted as saying she's willing to dedicate her life to any child she adopts. After adopting Annie in 1986, Curtis felt inspired to write a book about the various life-changing aspects of motherhood. She further declared the adoption of her daughter was the most profound event in her life. Now it's time to hear from you. Did you know about all these celebrity adoptions? Let us know in the comment section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.